Welcome to it, sports fans. It is the MKT Show. It is Friday. We are here. We made it. It's raining, which is cool. If you are in Africa, if you're not, it's probably not raining. Or South Africa, it is raining, and that's good or bad. It's good for me, not so good for others. But I don't know. Your problems are not mine. Let us move on. I'm MKT Show, Gareth Cliff Central, Sport. Let's get into it. Today, Friday 5. And then I'll give you my. So Friday 5 today is the greatest fly halves, the 5 greatest fly halves to ever do this thing. I cannot wait to give you my list. I've seen some lists and I'm like, what is going on here? What is going on here? So yeah, my greatest fly halves to ever play the game. And then, of course, we will finish off with big moment today at Arsenal. Or people say it's big, but if you've been in a sporting environment, of any serious note, you understand that this happens all the time, everywhere. So stop crying. Stop crying. But I'll tell you why it's good news what happened at Arsenal today if I'm an Arsenal fan, which I am not. But I'll tell you why it's good news. All right, let's get into it. Friday at 5. So I love putting lists together. I love it. I mean, I'm a sports nerd. So for me, I love these conversations about who's the greatest, why not. You bring you bring your argument. I bring mine, and I've always said my favorite sport, football is king. I don't care what anybody says, but I love Test rugby. Always have been watching it for a long time. So it's rugby, cricket, Test cricket, and boxing on the second tier. Those three are my second favorite sports, and then everything else follows after that. So football king, boxing, international, Test cricket. And then Test rugby, which is just a sensational thing. All right, Friday 5. Let's get into it. 5 greatest fly halves of all time. We'll start at number 5. Listen, this is the first guy to make rugby incredibly fun to watch. Been watching him since I was a youngster. First time we could get Mnet television in this country. We would get those international test matches, of course. South Africa not in it at that stage. We saw him for the very first time, and I was there at the opening game in 1995. Listen, this guy was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. 91 champ, points record holder when he retired. He made rugby awesome to watch. Really brought that Australian, I don't care, I'm going to sucker punch you in the face kind of attitude. And I love that. I love rugby. It is a warrior sport, and the warrior in the cage has to be unleashed. Absolutely love this guy. At number 5, the 5th greatest, and just an absolute classic player. Just classic. Everything about him, he looked like he was floating on the ground. Great running style, passing style, played flat to the line, could pass, could tactically kick. He could do it all, could kick for poles. As I said, retired as the points record holder at number 5. The great, the one and only. Great afro, by the way. The great Michael Liner. At number 4, from the very same country, 1991 or 1999 world champ. If you're a South African, you remember the most ridiculous drop kick on the run, by the way, to break our hearts. Yanni de Beer, we thought had done enough. He was part of the, probably in terms of individual talent and just as a duo in terms of dynamism and everything they brought to rugby, I think the greatest 9-10 duo of all time just to watch, because what they did was sublime, the way they played off each other. And they've never had a great pack, by the way. One thing this country has never, ever had, even to this day, they've never had a great pack. They've had great loose forwards, maybe a good lock here and there. I mean, they had John Eales, who was sensational in that 1999 World Cup when he was a maestro. He was the first guy I ever saw who could take the ball to the line, and he looked like a man playing against children. His ability to sniff out a gap, break that first line of defense, and then set away, whether it be Chris Latham, Joe Roth, or whoever it may be, Lote Takiri on the left, or whoever was at left wing, was second to none. But I think his absolute, the crescendo to his career. I've always believed this is the hardest to win, even over a World Cup, right? The crowning moment of his career was turning around the British Lions in 2001. He turned that around. They were 1-0 down. Him, along with George Smith, changed the face of that series. It was an incredible Lions team. If you don't remember it, it's Wilkinson at his peak, right? O'Driscoll coming out of nowhere, Robinson coming out of nowhere. It is Johnson, Shaw, that team, Leonard. You think of that great British team, and you think that Lions team meant business. They meant serious business. But in the second test, after Australia had lost that first test, this guy had, I believe, outside of kicking the ball, I think the second greatest test performance I've ever seen. It was unbelievable. He played them off the park at number 4, the 4th greatest fly half to ever do this thing. In 2001, his crowning performance. The genius, the sly fox that is Stephen Larkham. At number 3, he left rugby as the top point scorer. Listen, he led the Crusaders to 4 or 5 titles between 1998 and 2002. Absolutely love this guy. Loved him. Maestro. So tactical kicking, genius, right? Later on in his game, he brought that sort of, I think the All Blacks kind of forced it out of him. You could see he could play to the line, and his distribution with Alama Iramia outside of him and Peter Alatini was at another level, right? Absolutely sensational. One of my favorites, All Black Titan, tactical kicking genius. He's an all-time. I don't think I need to say anymore. If you watched rugby in the 90s and noughties, you understand when I say the name Andrew Mertens, it means legendary. Absolutely legendary. No hole in his game. Obviously, why you got to dock him points, the World Cup wins. And as a South African, I don't mind. 1995 was at that game probably one of the greatest days of my life. One of the greatest days of my life, I've got to say. Number 2, the greatest Northern Hemisphere rugby player of all time. He kicked that drop goal, right, to win the 03 World Cup. Right? He's the only fly half and the only team, of course, from the Northern Hemisphere to win a Rugby World Cup. When he came out at the age of 19, if you remember, as a South African, he came to South Africa. I believe he kicked 19 points, I think it was, against South Africa on his debut. It was like, who the hell is that guy? And that was history. From there, because they beat us. It was like England think they're going to come here and beat us. Stop it. Stop it. He came here. He delivered the goods. It was a real kicking clinic, an absolute kicking clinic. We couldn't keep up with them. He's the best defensive number 10. In terms of a tackling number 10, I know South Africans think Henry Honeyball. Stop it. Defense isn't just being about tough and tackling, right? He's the best defensive number 10 to ever play the game. Seemed to never miss a tackle, and tackling technique. Not the biggest guy, by the way. Not the biggest guy. Then you add on top, probably the greatest tactical kicker the game's ever seen. Probably the dead-eye dick kicker rugby's ever seen. So you're adding that to the greatest number 10 on defense you've ever had. Everybody keeps talking about his kicking game. His greatest asset was tackling. Listen, we had Charlie Hodgson on the show a couple of shows ago. You can go and look that episode up. And he said the reason why he couldn't get in the England or the British Lions team, by the way, Charlie Hodgson is the leading premiership points getter of all time, so no slouch himself. But he said the reason I couldn't get in the England team was I couldn't tackle. At number 2, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the blonde bombshell, that is Johnny, soon to be Sir Johnny Wilkinson. He's the greatest Northern Hemisphere rugby player of all time, and I don't want to hear it. He's the second greatest fly half of all time. There's no doubt about that. But nobody in the Northern Hemisphere has come close. No one's in his universe. I love the great Martin Johnson. I do. I love Lawrence Delalio. I love these guys. Absolutely legendary. When you talk about Richard Hill, these are people I love. Jason Leonard. You're talking about transcendent rugby figures across the board. But in the Northern Hemisphere, they have never produced a mesh of talent like this, along with the mentality. It's very, very difficult to get legendary talent with legendary mentality. It never happens. LeBron James, it's a once in a lifetime. Leo Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, it's once in 100 years. Forget a generation. I mean, an academic generation, as we know only too well, is 25 years. It's once in forever. Johnny Wilkinson is once in forever. Championship mindset, but then transcendent talent. It's almost impossible to get the two to cooperate. He's one of the greatest of all time. For me, the second greatest fly half to ever do his thing. At number 1, it's undisputed. I almost feel the list is unfair. It should have been I shouldn't even be doing number 1. It should just be the rest of the guys that also played fly half. Most test points, most Super Rugby points, 2-time World Cup winner, and he produced the greatest single performance in Test rugby history. I've watched this match over and over and over. The British Lions took themselves to New Zealand, and it was that New Zealand team as well. The New Zealand team that won 2 in a row, that's not the best New Zealand team of all time. That 03 one, because they had Umanga humming, right? Aaron Major humming. That was a different team. Fijian-born flyer Joe Rokothoka on the left. Just a different team. I mean, when you look back at that team, Leon McDonald at 15. That team was unstoppable. That was prime McCaw as well. People think McCaw now, when they won 2 World Cups, was the guy. Listen, Richie McCaw back in 2003 was... so 2005, excuse me. Oh boy. I think he became a smarter rugby player. He never lost that. You never lose that fight. But they had an unstoppable team. Jerry Collins, Rodney So'oyalo. Listen to these names that I'm saying. Chris Jack, Norm Maxwell, Anton Oliver. That team, ladies and gentlemen. And then this guy was head and shoulders above. But in that performance, he gets himself 33 points and condemns the British Lions to the most embarrassing defeat in their history. That game, he broke them. It was 3-0 in the end. Don't tell me about O'Driscoll being tipped by Umanga. Stop. Like they were going to do anything against that team. He produced 33 points. And in fact, at that moment, he really announced himself to the world. Because everyone said, hey, greatest talent of all time. He's kind of doing it. World Cup, they lost to France. He did that, and that was everything. I mean, they went on to lose the next World Cup, and then, he did what he did. But for me, undoubtedly, the greatest rugby player of all time, the greatest number 10 of all time. It's not even close. He's the most rounded player of all time. He played 12. By the way, those who don't know, he played 15 at a stage. Remember, Andrew Mertens was his mentor. He played 12 for the Crusaders, 12 for the All Blacks, 15 for the All Blacks, 15 for the Crusaders. He could do anything. Right? Most points in Super Rugby, most points in Test Rugby. When he dies, by the way, somebody should cut off his left foot because there's no diamond cutter as sharp as that left foot. Cut it, do the genetic research, and let's reproduce it. It is really manna from the gods. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest number 10 of all time. It's not close. The one and only Daniel D.C. Carter. Nothing like him. There's nothing like him. Stop. Don't give me anything else. People, there's no... Take Nas Porter, Johnny Wilkinson's defense, Aaron Major's direct running, take all of them, put them in one rugby player, and they're about half what Daniel Carter is. There's nothing he couldn't do. He could carry the ball to the line. The size meant he could take impact as well. That's where Johnny couldn't. Johnny was tough, but he couldn't make that impact on the gain line. There was nothing Daniel Carter couldn't do. Pass left, pass right, kick, tactical kicking genius. He's got, he's got Wilkinson's tactical kicking. He's a better goal kicker than, all right, maybe Johnny's a more accurate goal kicker, but you get the range with Carter. You get everything. He's the greatest point scorer of all time. And this idea that he played for the All Blacks, so it's easier to be better. I've told you this. That's the dumbest thing ever. If you say that, you've never played sport at a competitive level. It's harder to be the best player in a good team than it is to be in a nonsense team, because the killer in life is expectation. So the thing about Daniel Carter, I've always said, Daniel Carter, LeBron James, the two greatest in terms of, and Leo Messi's now starting to break into that conversation, is when the expectation is that high, when you are the chosen one. I mean, they were talking about getting Mertens out of the Crusaders when he was 18. So you're the chosen one. LeBron James, at the age of 15, was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You're the chosen one. Those two not only matched the expectation, they exceeded it by so far that there was no expectation levels for the level they reached. It didn't exist before. They changed their sports forevermore. Leo Messi, I think, very much the same. Daniel Carter, no competition. The greatest, just the greatest. I mean, my God, what a play. And we'll never see him again. We won't see it again, not in our lifetime. Not that package, right? Mwanga's got his deficiencies. So nice ball carrier, but Carter had the leadership as well. You got to remember. Mwanga, they're struggling now. Let's see who you are. You won 2 in a row. All Blacks were dominant. Now South Africa's in the house again. We're doing our thing. The Springboks never go away for too long. Let's see what you got. This is the worst All Black team of my lifetime, by the way. Mwanga, can you lift them out of the doldrums? Can you be more than just a gadget playmaker? Because the talent is off the charts. But now, Daniel Carter's just before you. You've got a legacy to fill. I think Bowden Barrett he's not a fly-off. Now let's see what Mwanga is about, see what he's got, because that is all time. DC, my guy. I'd love to know what people think. If you're a rugby person, tough for me to argue for anybody else. I mean, Wilkinson, Wilkinson's otherworldly. All right, he's otherworldly, but he's nowhere near Carter because he was a defensive kicking fly half, and that was it. Ball in hand going forward. That's why they had to bring Mike Cat on some of the time, right? At 12. Because you needed that playmaking. Johnny wasn't your playmaker with the ball in hand, but he could make play happen. My God, you want your pack on the front foot? There's a reason Richard Hill, there's a reason these guys love Johnny Wilkinson. You look at that pack, Shaw, right? You're looking at the great Martin Johnson. That pack, Steve Thompson, Leonard. It's a massive pack. It's a bruising pack. What they want to do is we want to be going that way. We don't want to be going backwards. What the big boys love is a fly half who will send them going that way, and there was no one like Johnny to do it. But all-round game, DC. All right, let's take some comments before I finish off with why I think Arsenal fighting was a great thing. Ryan Alex Ferreira says, I imagine it was a close call between Wilkinson and DC for that top spot, or maybe not. It was not, Ryan. It was not, I'm afraid. Johnny doesn't have the attacking game, right? He doesn't have that attacking game. I need somebody who can command the game in any conditions. Carter showed that. Put me in rain, doesn't matter, because that game travels. Johnny's game's limited. Is Johnny, what do we do when we're 15 points down? That's a problem for Johnny Wilkinson, because now he's got to start making the play. That's where unfortunately, Larkham couldn't tackle a fish supper. That's where his deficiency was. But, when you've got the great Tim Horan next to you, it's going to be okay. You got Tim Horan and and Herbert and the great Owen Finnegan. You got George Smith. You got Totai Kefu. So that side, in terms of the defense, they're like, you're a maverick, you're a genius, we'll cover for you. And by the way, you have George Gregan, who underestimated defense. So they could cover that first channel for Larkham. With Johnny Wilkinson, zero babysitting needed, by the way. In fact, when you ran at the English 10 channel, when you ran at Newcastle's 10 channel, Explosion City, you're about to get blown up. Take that nonsense somewhere else, because Johnny Wilkinson will embarrass a prop. He will embarrass a prop, and he was not scared to drive his hips through a prop, and that prop is breathing heavy for the next 15 minutes because Johnny's hitting you in the ribs, and he does not care. Secret, two guys. If you haven't heard me say it before, two greatest tacklers I've ever seen: Johnny Wilkinson, Matt Gitto. All technique. Matt Gitto, 85 kilograms. Johnny Wilkinson at max 90. So not the biggest guys. Everybody thinks it's about size. It comes down to that at a stage. They were both in impeccable physical shape. Weight to power ratio, of course, blah, blah, blah. Let's not get boring with the science. But the technique coming out of the tackle, head up, straight back, and you drive the hips through the tackle. You go and watch highlights of Wilkinson tackling and Gitto tackling. Matt Gitto, pint size, never missed a tackle, and bruising. Bruising. Johnny Wilkinson, he'll blow you up. Do not run at that first channel. But unfortunately, DC's got everything else. And that, listen, DC would blow you up as well. Don't you dare run at that number 10 channel against New Zealand, because you knew what was coming. And what that does, right, is I think if you don't watch rugby and it's not your thing, if you can look after the number 10 channel. So for those of you that haven't been in the game, I played number 10 in school, and I had a great coach. And in fact, we had an All Black legend coach us for a year. Great man called Murray Mexted, who's one of the greatest All Blacks of all time. And he said, and we used to talk about this, and he helped me a lot in terms of, I've always been, small man syndrome, a little bit aggressive. So I always went for it, and I love the defense side of the game. But what Murray Mexted said was, the easiest way in rugby is, you always hear people say run straight. Shortest way between 2 points, right? Run straight is straight. So if guys can attack that channel, that opens everything else up, and then the rest of the defense is constantly babysitting you, and then you're seeing overlaps. So if I have to babysit you, what does that mean? It means my number 6, or in South African rugby you have the 7, your blindside flank generally, if you've got a weak number 10, he's got to babysit. What does that mean? We can play out wide. And what does that do? It means that if you're trying to turn the ball over or challenge at the ruck, slow ball down, one or two of your loose forwards, whether it's an 8 or a 6, have to babysit the number 10. What that means is you can't compete for the ball, you can't slow it down, and then the other team is playing at their own pace and they're dominating. Even more so, remember the blindside flank. What's his job? Cross cover, what we call cross cover. And then as well, what it does is it takes the number 9 out of the defensive game if he has to babysit you. And you'll often see, if you see chips over the top, I don't know if people often wonder, why is the number 9 always there? Because on defense, number 9, 8, 15, the cover job is yours, right? That loose ball behind the line, that's yours. So when your number 10 is somebody you don't have to babysit, and this is what great defensive number 10s give you, is that you're almost unbeatable. I mean, if you think of it, perhaps you haven't watched it from that tactical side, but I was fortunate. I'm a sports nerd, so I really like this side of the game. If you watch it again, you always wonder, why was Farid Dupree always in the right place, right? Why, if you think about how often both Aaron and Peronara are always on the cross cover, that kick over the top, their first bounce, usually number 9, right? 9, 8. The 8's job is to be with the 15. If you're not into rugby, this is unbelievably boring, but I think it's a lovely lesson for those that aren't, as to why it's important that the number 10 can look after himself. It's why Elton Yankees can't play at that level, right? It's why, what's the first thing that Jake White did? Got rid of Khafi Toye, any of those previous fly-offs. Who did you get? Butch James. Because then it opens up, especially in a defensive setup, you can't afford to babysit. But what did that do then? Skulk, you're off the leash now. When it's not our ball, you're scrounging. And you're off the leash. Don't even worry about it, because Butch James, if they dare run into that channel, they're going to get blown up. And the worst thing you want is first phase ball going into that channel, right? Going backwards, because then the loose forwards are right there. Everybody's right there, and then you're in trouble. It's often turnover ball if you can't get over the line. So that's what that does. For those that are interested in rugby, and why it's important for number 10 to be able to tackle. And if you're a South African, maybe you've never understood, why doesn't Elton Yankees get his chance? And he's so good at Super Rugby level. Couldn't defend a fish supper. Doesn't work. When you get to test level, you cannot babysit anybody. Everybody must be elite at what they have to do. And defense is a non-starter, because at the top level, teams are going to score, right? But anyway, just a little tactical insight for you. So 9, always look out for it. Your 9 and 6, those balls over the top. And in terms of playing in the channels on defense, the cross cover, you're looking for 9 and 6 to do the mopping job there. If the ball gets kicked to your fullback, which is, I'll finish off on this one, often who's babysitting with the 15 for the counter-attack? Your number 8, of course. Vital for that to be known. And so Ryan, it wasn't close. Sorry, a very long-winded answer to that. It was not close at all. Daniel Carter, different level. All right, let's finish off on this. Got a text from a friend of mine who is living in the Czech Republic, and shareholder at Arsenal. He loves Arsenal. No, this guy loves the Arsenal. Says to me, Arsenal's a mess. Of course, everyone's coming back with COVID, this, that. And then he said, yeah, Ceballos and Luis fought at practice. Listen, I've always argued for this. So if you don't listen to the Gareth Cliff show, I'm happy to say it on here. All right? I was a spoiled brat as a youngster, and I went to boarding school. And when you get there, you meet the farm boys. So I'm a yuppie, Joburg, loudmouth, think you can always say what you want, middle-class family. You know, you never hear no really as a middle-class brat. And in hindsight, I argue this, because those farm boys don't play. They don't play. They'll punch you in the mouth and they don't care. I got there with my yuppie, loud, yapping mouth. I think I know everything. I can disrespect people. Tell you something. I think it's a wonderful thing for all young men. I'm not speaking for women. I don't know what the women's world is. It is a fantastic thing. The younger you can do this, for young men to taste their own blood in their mouths early on. Often. Because listen, I'm not scared of getting knocked out right now, because I've been knocked out so many times in school. It was awesome. In hindsight, it wasn't awesome then, because these farm boys, they're different, boy. They're different. They're not us yuppies here. I think we can just say anything and there's no consequences, and little handbags being pushed around at the nightclub. They don't talk that language. We come here, you think you're disrespectful, you want to talk about it. No, they'll punch you in the face and then they'll leave you there, and we'll see you at in the study canteen, study hall or lunch hall, and they don't say a thing, boy. The farm boys, they don't care. And I love it. In hindsight, I love that education. But young men need to taste their own blood in their mouths. I'll tell you what. Sport is not for beta males and females at the top level. Please stop confusing sport and recreation. Recreation is for everybody. Hey, go to the fun run with your flat white or cappuccino and go and walk and run and talk about the gossip of the year. Go and do that at your fun runs on Saturday mornings in suburbia. Great. Sport is an urgency business. And beta females and beta males have no place in that cauldron. I have no interest in them. I want people that want to win. But what does winning come at, right? It comes at a price. Winning is not for everybody. And it's not about the talent ever. I've told you this, right? Greatness is a price you must pay daily. Greatness is a price you must pay daily. But greatness comes at a cost. It means that there's young men, millionaires, that are holding each other accountable, who think they are the best at everything. Hypermasculine environment, egos, and money in the same environment. Then you drop in their little salt bay. It is hypermasculine. It is a machismo environment, driven, ego. I'm the best. Pay me. It's awesome. Let's not reduce that, right? I've got no time for, I'm sorry, social justice warriors sitting in air-conditioned offices around the world talking about life being theoretical. There's a reason we love sport, right? And the great Simon Critchley puts it this way. Football is war, but by other means. It is an extension of war, but by other means. And in war, there is casualties. Now, I'm not comparing it to people in Iraq, but it is an extension of war, but by other means. It is cantankerous by its very nature. You want to win, you'd better be ready to take a sucker punch in the mouth from your own teammates. Because winning's an ugly business. It's not for everybody. And if you're not here to win, go home. I think the Ceballos Luis thing, I don't even care what the reason is. And trust me, I got in enough fights in my days playing sport because I'm a terrible, terrible loser. I hate losing. If I'm going to do something, I want to win. If there's no chance of win-loss, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I get out of my face. I've got enough hobbies, right? I got my mom, I got my sister, I got my family where it's not a win, it's not a zero-sum game. But if I'm playing sport, I want to play with the best, right? To my level, whatever that is. And I want to win, whether we're playing five-a-side. If we're going to play five-a-side soccer, I don't want to play with a bunch of overweight people that are just there for a good time. I want to win. Bring your A game. I don't want you smoking before the game or drinking. That's why I don't play indoor soccer anymore. Like, guys don't take it serious. I want to take it serious. If I'm doing something, I'm a serious person. So I love that Ceballos and Luis fought. If you're an Arsenal fan, you should celebrate this. There hasn't been this kind of intensity at Arsenal ever. When was the last time you heard of a fight? I believe it was when Eboué had a run-in with Patrick Vieira, I think. Was it Vieira or one of the great midfielders back in the day? I remember that story. Since then, there has not been that intensity, and you need intensity to win. Why? Sport is an urgency business. Please, people out there, don't let beta females and beta males try and pull you away from that raw warrior mentality. We love the warrior, and the warrior's in the cauldron all the time. When you're in the Colosseum, there is no room to take a step back. So to Luis and Ceballos, whatever it is, I love it. I love it. And I can guarantee you, Mikel Arteta and Arsenal will come out and say all the right things. We'll investigate, blah, blah, blah. But somewhere in Arteta, he's going, excellent. We're on the right track. Hypermasculine, alpha females, alpha males. Those are the people you want to be in business with if you want to win. Sport, life, whatever. Beta females, beta males, don't worry about them. They're not taking you anywhere. They'll be there waiting on the couch, being nicey to people. Don't worry about them. They'll be there all the time and doing nothing to aggravate the society. You've got to aggravate circumstances for progress. There must be aggravation, right? Even the science of a combustion engine, right? You need catalysis. It's a bit of a chemistry word. I don't want to go down this boring path for people who aren't into the sciences, but you've got to catalyze situations. Greatness is a price you've got to pay daily. Warriors shouldn't take a step back. I'm delighted if I'm Arsenal. I'm delighted if I'm Arteta. I'm delighted if I'm an Arsenal fan and I'm hearing that from the training ground. I'm going, oh my God, we're back. Oh my God. How long has it been? Because what do you always hear about Arsenal? Soft. Right? What's the accusation against Arsenal? Soft. Troy Deeney, what did he say? By the way, I sent him a text and he enjoyed it. No cajones. But this is Arsenal. In fact, you've been the Pistols for a long time. Now this is the Gunners. This is the Gunners. Guys are fighting at practice. Why? We want to win. It's not good enough anymore. That's what it tells me. Listen, hypermasculinity, it's got no place. Right? And I'm an advocate of hypermasculinity. Probably why I'm single. But hypermasculinity has no place in relationships. It has no place in society, I think, because it has its worst excesses. Right? You allow hypermasculinity to run wild. We've seen what the last 400 years have given us. But when it comes to business, when it comes to sport, I want hypermasculine men and I want alpha females. I want to win. Machismo wins. Beta does not. Arsenal, congratulations. I'll say it right now. You're back. The Gunners are back. It's no longer the Pistols. I'll stop calling you the Pistols. You're back. Congratulations. I love it. I absolutely love it. Machismo, people, breeds urgency. Sport is an urgency business. We got to win. You know when we have to win? Yesterday. Sport is an urgency business. If you're a Gunners fan, love to know what you think. I love to know what you think. Hey, we're back, baby. Premier League, La Liga, boxing again this weekend. What we got? We got NFL this weekend. What else? Have I missed anything else? English Premier League rugby is back. What else have I left out? I don't think I've left anything out. Formula One's a bore. No one cares about motorsport. What else? Rugby Unlocked. Is that on this weekend? I think it is. By the way, that Super Brew is going. Come and join us. Cliff Central Sport or Cliff Central Brew. Join up and you can compete. There will be a prize for the winner. And not multiple winners. If there's a tie, I tell you what, no prize. No prize. I don't like ties and co-winners. If there's one clear winner, there's a prize for you. I'll decide what the prize is. Maybe I'll take you out for dinner or lunch or whatever. Or we can work something out. We'll see what it is. See what you like. I'm not good at presents, but there will be a prize. There will be a prize. By the way, we are playing fantasy football as well. If you're all Premier League. The MKT Show FPL. Go and search that. You can inbox me, MKT Inspires, on all social media. If you're looking for those details, happy to send those to you. Otherwise, we are Cliff Central Sport on all platforms. Be a friend, tell a friend. Before you go, push that one. Like. If you don't like the show didn't even happen, as the great Pat McAfee always says. So, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. We're back. Sport is all the way back. I am loving it. I'm pumped for this weekend. Chelsea played Newcastle. Cannot wait to watch Leicester Liverpool as well. I think that'll be a real tactical and a revenge game for Brendan Rodgers. Yeah, listen, hypermasculine men, I can only speak for men. Don't let anybody fool you. Love revenge. Because when people fire you, they're telling you, no, we don't think you're good enough. There'll be a little bit extra for Leicester to go after. They'll want to win one for their manager. Looking forward to that great game. Ladies and gentlemen, you could have been anywhere tonight with anybody. You chose to be with me. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure. It's been awesome this week again. Cliff Central Sport, the MKT Show. I'm MKT, Gareth Cliff, Cliff Central Sport. For now, we are the hell out of here.